Complaints about homeless people in the city of Perth rose 78% last year.
Murray and Hay Streets are also hotspots. The worst affected areas.
Australia, per capita, actually has the highest homelessness rate in the nation.
What can we do to help these people and, at the same time, take back the streets of our city?
My full name is actually Terry Shane Hass, but I've been going by Shane for at least 35 years. I have been homeless, more homeless than not homeless, for at least the same amount of time. Probably even more. I'm 58 years old, and I remember leaving home, my first time I was probably about 16, 17, and I left home.
I had a Homeswest house in Fremantle. My mum fell ill with lung cancer, and my dad's got leukemia. I come to Mandurah to help him care for my mum. But in the meantime, me being down here, Homeswest said to me, because someone broke into my house, so they've gone there and realised I wasn't there. So they've rang me, I'm like, where are you? I'm like, I'm in Mandurah caring for my mother, she's dying. They're like, well, your house can't be vacant no more than 2 weeks. So they basically forced me to give my house up. So the day they wanted to take me to court was actually the day she passed away. And then 6 months after that, my father passed away with his leukemia. And which has left me on the streets. People looking at me, they judge. I've met a lot of lovely people, don't get me wrong, from young to old that don't judge. They sit down, they listen to my story, and then they understand a little bit more. Instead of looking at me thinking, oh, she's a drug addict, she's fucking alcoholic, or she's whatever, she's just a bum that chooses to be in this situation.
I always feel really sad and, feel like they shouldn't have to be out here, and there should be a better way for them to, find a home, or they shouldn't be having to live out on the streets of Perth.
I feel sorry, but I also wish I could do something about it.
There's something wrong with the system, that it should be, there's no reason why people should go without homes, why they have to live. How has it got to the point where they're living on the street and no one's helping them?
Believe me, I've had some remarks, I've had some fucking looks, I've had some horrible things. But then there's another majority of people that, sit down and they empathise with you and want to hear your story.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you have people come along and they'll hand you $100 note. You go, what do you want to give me that for? And they say, well, I feel for you, I feel for you. And we go, well, there's many amongst us here that are homeless and more malnutrition than me. So how many hundreds do you have? But by the way, this will be split up into as many as I can give it out, and I'll end up with $20. I'm fine. I would have been happy if you just gave me $20 and handed the individual you came across in the main street here $20 each. But you've given me the opportunity to do that anyway. Thank you.
Towards the places I've met a girl that's 13, she's on the streets. It's like, why can't you go home? Her mum and dad are drug addicts. In Mandurah, there's not a lot of homeless people. There's bugger all.
I've never been able to make much of myself because of the education that I received. I was unable to be educated. I was heavily abused in the domestic realm of most of the abuses you can think of. And so I left home in a very confused state, very, very sort of null and void to what humanity had to offer, and very insecure in it all.
Yeah, so I guess if we're talking about youth homelessness, might be speaking about early teenage years to young adulthood. And I think there are 4 main drivers. So some of them are obvious ones. So financial hardship, and that can be experienced at the individual or family level. Now, and often I think when the people think of, they associate financial issues with homelessness. Another issue, though, can be domestic violence, and that might be violence that's directed toward the child that ends up running away from home, or it might be that there's just a physically abusive or sexually abusive situation in the home, whether or not it's directly affecting the child.
Hi, I'm Ricky. I have been homeless for about 3 to 4 years now. She passed away when I was 10, and my dad, he's the one that did it. He was coming down off all the drugs, and he's gone down. So yeah, I'm out here alone. Because all the rest of my family, they're from New Zealand, so they're all the way in New Zealand. But I don't have enough money to afford that trip back, you know.
Well, because I've gone through it myself. I see a part of myself there. So I now just see them as that person more than as a homeless person, or I see how much they're struggling. I struggle, but I've managed to, not like the many, I managed to scrape ends meet. I like busk and people offer monies, but most of that money, half of that money at least goes back to the passerby I know that struggles too.
Yeah, well, what I think happens is that I think well-meaning people see the immediate consequence. They see the consequence happening right here and right now, and so they want to help. They're well-meaning when you provide someone with a meal that you yourself are paying for, or that you're volunteering your time to serve. I think that person is indeed, they have good intentions. What I suspect that most people don't know is they don't realize, I suspect what's needed is more public awareness of how costly it is to each individual in Australian society when we don't help these people out. So it's, if I provide a meal to someone, I care to a certain extent. But if I'm really going to commit to this, if I really want to be committed to it, it probably requires more than just providing a single meal on a single occasion. And if it's not enough motivation to see the hardships that homeless people suffer, it might be informative for the public to know that statistics estimate that it takes about $2 million of public expenditure, taxpayer money, to take care of a homeless person from youth through the rest of their life.
My name is Garth Icorn, and I've been State Director of Street Chaplains in WA for the last 10 years. Well, our tagline is the art of doing good. We want to be there for people when they're going through a crisis. So we meet everyone's needs when we're on the streets. We do adequate training so that we can be viable, so we do the accredited national first aid course so that police know that when they ring us and ask us to come and help, that they know what the quality of service will give them. So we normally work from 11 o'clock at night till about, or 10 or 11, depending on where you are in Western Australia, where the most critical times at night time are, to about 4 or 5 in the morning, depending on the weather.
There's two sides to it, you know. There's some shitty people out there, and there's some beautiful souls out there too. You know, some people that have brought me clothes and shoes and everything that I get. I get a caravan, so I can have a shower and stuff like that, and somewhere to sleep safe and that, yeah.
I can tell you this story, which really warmed my heart, if you don't mind me telling you this. It was on that corner of William and Murray, but on the other side of the road, you know, where the train station escalators come up and hit the street. That's probably about Perth's busiest corner at lunchtime. And they came across this couple. She was a young woman, and her feet were pathetic, you know, like that. She had no shoes on and the socks were absolutely worn out, and she was really desperate. Our street chaplains just were rather overwhelmed with compassion for this couple, and they just decided that they would buy her a pair of shoes, and she was very thankful for that. So they went looking down Murray Street for a shoe shop and found one. And the first thing they had to do, of course, was to check out with the staff in the shop whether it was okay to bring this rather disabled looking girl in, because that's an issue for staff and other clients that are in there. And they were quite happy, the staff, for her to come in, so that worked out okay. They got her in, and she bought herself a moderately priced pair of shoes and a decent pair of socks, and the street chaplain team there went up to pay the staff, and the staff said, "Oh, no way, we're handling this." We just thought it was lovely the way the compassion was sort of rolling along and blessing everyone.
I'm well aware of how often people suffer from mental illness, both as a consequence and as a cause of homelessness, and I think people aren't aren't really in touch with how often mental illness can cause homelessness for individuals. And so we see someone who seems to be talking to themselves, and I think it's easy for people to assume that that individual is inebriated or on some sort of substance, when in reality what they really need are mental health resources. And that ultimately, perhaps the most promising thing is to provide those mental health resources, whether they're dealing with anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, whatever the case might be. Ultimately, the most beneficial thing we can do in many cases is to provide that support psychologically.
There are others who are there, as I mentioned before, who may have a chronic abscess on his foot, and he's not caring for it because his main interest is just surviving, so and you might see him for a few weeks in the one spot, and you might be able to clean it up with your first aid gear and stuff like that, and get to know him a bit, but then through some of his own mental health issues, he's not there for 3 or 4 weeks, and you've got to worry about him because he's already been told that abscess has got to be addressed or it'll kill him, and so you go through this sort of rhythm of highs and lows with a lot of these people as they try and cope with life, and they're all happy with themselves and they're all balancing themselves, but from our middle class point of view, they're in a pretty bad state.
I hope to see myself with my own home, with a job. That's what I hope. Realistically, I don't know. It's a hard situation to dig yourself out of a hole that's so dark, deep down.
You know, the big question you ask is, what can I do? It's a personal thing. To me, it's absolutely a personal thing. That's where the difference will be. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at it. It doesn't matter how many government programs are operating. Finally, every homeless person has their own story. There's no big silver bullet fix, and there never will be.
Each individual person on this planet accommodates some way, shape or form to support the individual, more than just recognise, to extend the hand, to offer a blanket, to give some clothing, to buy a feed. Well, then there wouldn't be too much problem about being a homeless person. The forefront of my thing is, God, I wish I could help the many, because there are so many fallen angels out there, out here in the world. And it's becoming more and more impossible to see how you could actually compile